Hey guys, brief update on my dad. Dad's been suffering from an old neurological injury that's more recently been causing akathisia. Akathisia is the worst thing I've ever seen anyone go through. That sounds dramatic, but it's true.
The screen fades in on a woman in her mid-30s, poised in a sleek studio, microphone steady, eyes clear. Mikhaila Peterson, podcast host, carnivore diet evangelist, daughter of one of the most polarizing intellectuals alive. Millions watch her. She speaks with the calm of someone who has already walked through fire and come out the other side. Private planes, a growing empire, a family that, on camera, looks unbreakable. But here's what nobody asks. What happens when the woman who taught thousands how to heal their bodies with nothing but meat and salt has to watch her father convulse in a neurological hell she helped pull him out of once before? What happens when the spotlight that made her voice matter keeps dragging the people she loves back into the dark? But before we get started, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe button, because you never know when YouTube decides to hide my videos from your homepage. And of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Now, let's jump into it. Mikhaila Peterson's story isn't just another health guru redemption arc. It's a quiet tragedy wrapped in clinical precision and red meat. A daughter who became famous for fixing what medicine couldn't, only to discover that fame itself is the most merciless disease of all. The golden cage. The very thing that made her famous, her raw, unflinching testimony of juvenile arthritis cured by beef and water, became the bars around her life. By 2018, her first YouTube video had exploded. Millions saw the before and after. The teenager who needed 2 major joints replaced at 17 versus the woman who claimed remission from pain, depression, fatigue, and more. Her father, Jordan Peterson, amplified it. The world listened. Sponsors appeared. Critics sharpened their knives.
She built a platform on elimination diets that became the Lion Diet. She spoke at conferences. She advised the desperate. And still the cage tightened. Every flare-up in her family became public property. Every skeptical headline called her pseudoscience. The daughter who once hid behind her father's lectures now carried the weight of his legend and her own. The diet that saved her became both shield and sword. Controversial enough to invite endless attack, necessary enough that she could never put it down. Back to the cracked sidewalks of Toronto, 1994. Not the glossy downtown version. The residential streets where snow turns gray by noon, and the wind off Lake Ontario cuts like accusation. Mikhaila Alexis Peterson is 2 years old. Her mother, Tammy, notices the limp. She's walking funny. Doctors dismiss it as growing pains. 5 years later, the diagnosis lands like a verdict. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis. 37 joints inflamed. The kind of pain that makes a child clench her jaw until her teeth ache. Her father, Jordan, is already the professor who debates ideas like other men breathe. The household crackles with argument and Soviet art on the walls. Debate isn't dinner conversation, it is oxygen. But behind the intellectual fire is a girl injecting immunosuppressants twice a week from age 8. Enbrel, methotrexate, drugs that trade one kind of torment for another. Skin infections, weight gain, fog. By 17, the cartilage in her hip and ankle is gone. Replacement surgery. Metal and plastic where bone should be. She wakes up in recovery rooms that smell of antiseptic and failure. Her mother fights quietly. Her father teaches her the one lesson that will become scripture. If you have a problem, it is yours to solve. No excuses.
Mikhaila absorbs it like marrow. The pain is not just physical, it is a debt. A promise she makes to the girl who once believed her body had betrayed her. She will fix this, or she will disappear trying. She crawls through frozen rivers of medical dead ends, pills that numb and inflame, doctors who shrug, depression that arrives like a second illness, hypomania, fatigue, suicidal thoughts, hospital stays that leave PTSD scars. Then, in her early 20s, the experiment begins. Elimination diets, paleo, meat and grains. Each time symptoms retreat, then roar back.
Until one desperate winter, she tries the extreme. Beef, salt, water. Nothing else for months. The body listens. Joints quiet. Mind clears. The girl who had eaten raw liver of doubt finally tastes something like control. She documents it. The blog Don't Eat That. The videos. The world watches a Peterson daughter rewrite her own biology. And right then, at the exact moment her voice finds an audience, the first real fracture appears. Her father's fame had already turned the family into lightning rods. Now her healing becomes part of the spectacle. The 2019-2020 chapter tested every promise she had ever made. Jordan, already carrying the weight of global controversy and his wife's cancer diagnosis, is prescribed benzodiazepines for anxiety. The drugs hook him. Withdrawal begins. Akathisia, restlessness that feels like your soul is trying to claw its way out of your skin. He cannot sit. He cannot lie down. Hospitals in North America offer more pills to mask the damage. Mikhaila watches the man who taught her to solve problems become a prisoner in his own nervous system. She does what the girl who survived 17 surgeries does. She acts. She and her husband research. They find a clinic in Russia willing to do what Western medicine calls too dangerous, an induced coma, proper detox. They fly him there. Pneumonia complicates it. He nearly dies. She sits in Moscow hallways that smell of foreign disinfectant and fear, holding the line between hope and horror. He emerges, damaged but alive. The family calls it a miracle of necessity. She keeps speaking, keeps filming. The cage had grown teeth. How does the woman who saved her own body become the one carrying everyone else's pain? The psychological twist is not gossip. It is survival math. The controversial habits, her absolute refusal to stray from the lion diet, the public defense of it even when critics call it dangerous, the way she steps into the role of family medical strategist were never eccentricities. They were forged in childhood helplessness. When your body turns on you at 2 years old and medicine offers only temporary halts, control becomes religion. Diet becomes the one variable she could master. Isolation becomes armor. The daughter who once injected herself with immunosuppressants now prescribes steak to the desperate. She built an empire on the promise that the body can heal if you remove the triggers. But triggers kept returning. Family stress, public scrutiny, her father's relapses. The richest voice in the health conversation became its loneliest occupant. Because every time she spoke, she risked exposing the cracks. The father still fighting neurological ghosts. The mother who had battled cancer. The daughter who could never quite step out from under the Peterson name. Then came the silence.
For months in 2025 and into 2026, she stepped back. Podcasts slowed. The world wondered. Until a few days ago, in a raw, tear-streaked video, Mikhaila Peterson finally broke her silence. Her father's old neurological injury, psych med-induced, had roared back. Akathisia again. Mold exposure, stress, pneumonia, sepsis. A year of hell. She described it clinically, almost coldly, the way a survivor catalogs wounds. But the tremble in her voice betrayed the girl who once limped across Toronto sidewalks. Every day for the last year has been hell. She is 34, pregnant with her second child, and still the one holding the family's medical map. The validation she craves most is never fully granted. Not the kind that comes from the medical establishment that once failed her. Not the kind that lets her be seen as more than Jordan Peterson's daughter. Critics dismiss her diet as fad or harm. Cultural gatekeepers label the entire family controversial. She keeps proving the body can heal, yet the culture keeps denying the proof. Rejection as a cultural phenomenon. The daughter who refused to stay broken is told her methods are the problem. Back to the cracked sidewalks. Back to Toronto, 2009. Mikhaila Peterson is 17. The night before hip and ankle replacement. The hospital room smells of plastic and dread. Her father sits beside the bed, the professor who once told her problems are yours to solve. Her mother holds her hand. Metal will replace bone tomorrow. The girl who has already endured a decade of injections and pain looks at the ceiling and makes the silent vow again. She will not let this define her. She will find the exit.
That single moment, 17 years old, body failing, family watching, would either save her or destroy her. The screen fades to black. Only this time, we hear the low hum of a hospital monitor. Then the sharp crack of a steak hitting a hot pan. The sound of a woman still cooking her own salvation, decade after decade, while the world watches and waits for the next fracture. Mikhaila Peterson kept her promise. She fixed what doctors could not. She carried her father through hell twice. She built a voice in the noise. But here's what nobody asks. When the final trigger is removed and the last critic falls silent, who is left in the quiet with her? A girl from Toronto sidewalks who once believed control could outrun pain. A mother teaching her own children the same merciless lesson. A woman who carved health from suffering, only to watch the people she loves keep bleeding. And somewhere in the silence, perhaps she is still experimenting. Not for the cameras, not for the critics, just to prove the cage never really won.